Hello, hello, hello,
Hello?
hello.
Hello. Viking Yoda says hello.
How's everyone doing? This show is
This?
Indie Vote Live. That's right. I gotta share it on social media because, um, what the heck? All right, where is it?
He's
Where
got
is
his
it?
reason as any. Got to share
Now,
on social
social
media
media.
because what the heck?
Uh, there we go. All right,
I already got 5 likes on my page, so
5 likes.
on my Facebook page. Yeah, I think
Man,
it's 5. Let me go back up and look.
5 likes is pretty cool. Um, I'm going to.
Sherry, Ted liked it. Oh, there's only 3 up there. There's one other. Anthony. Anthony liked it. I don't know if he's going to be with us tonight or not, but
Cool, cool, cool.
he's
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Indie Vault.
Ted liked
Oh, yeah, I'm getting back. I'm getting feedback. I don't know why.
from where?
It's weird. I don't
From
know.
me? Not
Might have
from
been
me.
you. All right. Anyway, hello everyone. I hope you're having a great, terrific Tuesday afternoon, night, wherever you are. Gus
Ted's in
Tyler
the
Bush.
house.
Hello, Gus. How's it going? Um, Ted. Hello, childrens. Hello, Ted.
Hey, Gus. What's
Mr.
up?
Ted's neighborhood. Um, Today, on this very important episode of Indie Vote Live, we have with us guests. We have Larry Patrick Higgins from Rebel Comics, who's got the green screen from Elgato. I'm jealous. Uh, and then we got straight from Batman Returns, Michelle Pfeiffer's bedroom. We got the indie devil himself with the fetish agenda, Mr. Rob Anderson. As always, and we're gonna talk to those guys about comics. But first, I gotta roll our trailer because we paid for it. We need you guys to wise up, and we're going to roll the intro. We'll be right back after that.
All
Ready?
that footage.
Yes. Hello, everyone out there. My name is Varian Grant. I'm the co-owner of Last Call Comics, been so for the last 7 years, and founder of IndieVolt Media LLC. Got my start making comics way back in 2008. First book published was a black and white interior action comedy called Psycho Sirens. I'm a father, a husband, a geek, creator, publisher, reluctant taxpayer, very reluctant taxpayer, and artist, shamefully, not in that order. And you're watching IndieVolt Live tonight. I'm joined by, as always, Lola. Hi,
Whole
Lola.
group of people.
Yeah.
Lola. Oh, no. Lola.
Lola. Mr. Rainey Zimmerman, go ahead.
Hey.
Give your intro.
Hey, everybody. I'm Randy Zimmerman, artist, creator, publisher, independent comics guy for many decades. The last 10 years, I've been doing a comics newspaper that I was circulating around in the area. I've had a lot of independent publications done, Arrow Comics, Massive Comics, Weeby Comics. I've worked for a lot of independent comic companies over the years. And now I'm an award-winning commercial and graphic artist. Most of the commercial art has to do with sequential art, which pays sometimes better than those guys in the mainstream. So it's been a lot of fun, and now we're back at the looking at the direct market and the crowdfunding stuff. And I have a YouTube channel named Zim Geek that I add to not often enough. So
I'm also joined by
very happy to be here.
Mr. Rebel Comics himself, Mr. Larry Higgins. Larry, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, well, guys, good to be back on the show again. And of course, Rob, always good to see you, brother. We haven't talked in a little bit. I feel like we need to catch up, man. I'm LP or Rebel Gaming, Rebel Comics, Larry Higgins. I'm a man of 1,001 nicknames, dude. Hopefully, most of them are good. But I do the comic book Niobe. I got a Kickstarter, man, that we just submitted. Hopefully, we'll be launching that in 2 days' time. I'm just waiting for them to give me the final approval, and then we're off to the races, man. But I'm excited to be here, talk with you guys, because I love listening to you guys, man. Ever since I came on the show, I've been listening to you guys on Tuesday mornings, and I'm not even normally up on Tuesday mornings. Like I get
Thursday
home
morning. Thursday.
Every
Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Thursday morning. And so, but then, I turn on my laptop and I check my stuff, and then I see you guys are on, and I say, oh, I'll listen to them for 5 minutes. And then an hour goes by, and then I go to bed. So, you know.
Yeah, it's Randy's fault. He's quite loquacious. And of course,
Loquacious. Is that something to do with a duck? What?
and of course, Mr. Rob Anderson.
You would
Hello,
think
Rob.
you would think Lola would be loquacious.
Rob, how are you today?
I'm good. How you guys doing this evening?
Pretty good. Tell us about yourself, Rob. For viewers who don't know.
All right, I am the Indie Devil, who, thanks to being on this show, now has a Fetish Agenda campaign, which I'm proud to be championing throughout 2020. I am also known as the Indie Advocate because I advocate for indie creators, which we have an awards program going on right now that's actually going to award creators. And we're learning from this year to make 2020 even better and more about indie. And I'm an Indie Devil because I will tempt you with my tales about fetish, monsters, and more. And I offer free hugs and spanks at every show. Part of the Fetish Agenda.
And now, you guys, today we got a couple questions from viewers. I'm going to jump right into those, Randy.
Sure.
Um,
I'm gonna do a clip of Rocky and Bullwinkle one of these days. That has Bullwinkle going, fan mail from some flounder.
So we'll start with one that's not based on indie at all, but I thought it was funny. Someone sent it in.
We take
Alex,
all questions here.
Yeah, Alex sent it in. We've even given advice to the loved one before.
We have. Those are fun.
Yeah,
I love that. Love trying to keep people happy.
Yeah.
No more mutants, please. At this point, I'm begging, Alex. Oh, buddy, hang on. The next 10 years at Marvel, especially at the movies, is going to be pretty rough for you.
All questions here.
I hate to break that to you.
Yeah.
You can wonder, or if you have to put up with the Marvel comic stuff, you can wonder why Magneto was eating a steak.
It was a good steak. It was.
If it's not in your wheelhouse, Alex, please don't buy it. Just
steak
don't
was
buy
kosher.
it. Don't put up with it. Don't. I don't know if the steak was kosher or not.
Yeah, the steak was
At least
kosher.
it wasn't pork.
Yeah. You don't think Magneto likes bacon? Well, you might not. Yeah.
I don't know. I could not speak for the character.
I just thought that was funny.
None of those guys up there should actually. That's my opinion.
I'll just say I'm all down for the mutants. I'm a huge X-Men fan. That's the comic book that got me into comics. Bring it on. And you're right, man. You're going to see mutants explode all over the MCU, starting with the New Mutants movie, which they are saying is going to be part of the MCU. So there you go.
Now, last I heard, they were spinning the wheel on that one. We'll see how much money it makes. It's in.
So tell me, guys, which question do you want? Do you want something light or something that's going to get Randy's boiled blood?
Just don't put it on a spinner and
I want to watch
spin it
Randy's
around.
boil blood. Here's the thing about Randy I love. He's just so old school, man. He just tells it like it is. I want to see more of that.
Yeah, he's probably the
Just
biggest
wait until you see the book I'm working on.
Randy, go ahead and read it.
I'm with you, Rich Johnston.
Sorry to hear that.
That boils my blood right there. If you indie guys cared so much about the industry like you claim, you'd be trying to figure out ways to keep the stores afloat. Your crowdfunding windfalls are doing exactly dick. Well, we should post that warning up here. We are not for kids. So sorry. Here we go. We are TV, MADLSV, where the D stands for diversity. So much about the industry to keep the stores afloat. Your crowdfunding windfalls are doing exactly dick for the stores you claim to be closing. You claim you are closing due to Marvel DC. Devin, I hope you don't think I was picking on your email. We were just reading it. So, and you are more than entitled to your opinion. We appreciate your letter, but windfalls to keeping the stores afloat, and then complaining. Oh, first off, can we pick this apart or what? Should we?
Yeah.
Oh man, let me have at it. You let me know when it's my turn.
Let's let Larry go first then.
Well, okay. There's just so much wrong with this statement. A lot of indie comics actually end up in comic book stores. James E. Roach's Wretches is a good example of a comic book that I backed on Kickstarter that is now in, on shelves, nationwide. Stuff that came out of Antarctic Press that started maybe with crowdfunding, or stuff that started with Action Lab. also were crowdfunded books that boom hit it on the shelves. Let's look at Brian Polito's Lady Death, which is also another crowdfunding book that has also got diamond distribution. I go to the comic book store every Wednesday, and while I may not buy as much as I used to buy, I still buy from the comic shop. I have a small pull list. I pick things off the shelves, and I look for hidden gems. And on top of that, the comic shop supports me by carrying my book. My local shop carries my book. And so I think there's I think there's a great relationship with a lot of comic book shops and indie creators to work together to make this viable on both ends of the spectrum. It's not just about, you crowdfund so you don't buy at a comic book shop, or you only buy from comic book shops and you never check out Kickstarter. I mean, that's just a ludicrous way of thinking, man.
Yep. Well,
Randy?
they do start off with, I'm with Rich Johnston.
Well, I'm just bypassing Rich Johnson altogether here. I'm going right for the heart of this statement.
Okay. Well, I was just picking it apart. The windfalls that crowdfunding is making, especially on the CG side of things. I think you're mistaken when you think that that's out there directly affecting the direct market, the retail shops, because you're going to find, if you really look at it, you have to look at it, the people that are buying a lot of the CG stuff are people that were chased off from the comic shops years and years and years ago, that have picked up on Zach, that have picked up on Ethan's broadcasts and agree with them, and then all of a sudden they're doing products that appeal to them. They are actually adding to the market, and it wouldn't surprise me much if it actually encourages a lot of these guys who abandoned comics 10, 20, 25 years ago to stop back into their retailer and take a look and go through. It would be interesting to know the exact figures. Unfortunately, we won't ever really know. It's a local retailer. It's on a store-by-store basis as to who's coming in. But I have recently heard from a few retail shops that I've talked to that they're seeing more people coming through the door they haven't seen in a few years. So-and-so, where you been? Oh, well, I got out of comics, but I decided to get back in and take a look around. And they don't want to ask them why. They're just happy they're there and they want to sell them stuff.
Yeah.
So the market I think the market is expanding. I don't know if it's expanding specifically because of the crowdfunding efforts, but those windfalls that you think are dragging away from the retail shops aren't being pulled out of those retail shops. It's being pulled out of people that don't go to those retailers anymore, that still have a lot of disposable income. And you're going to see those people grow over the next, I think, 5 to 10 years.
Ted says, my local comic book shop carries my book as well, and I support them 100% with a pull list and promote them through my social media, etc. Yeah, I mean, we I think that you give back to your local comic stores that are trying to
it's only good for
you. Yeah,
and of course, you always want to be seen by the local. Always.
Ralph says diamond is a big issue, and I agree with that, Ralph. It's a huge issue.
Definitely is.
They're a big problem. Now. Actually, Rob, did you want to chime in on that?
Well, I got a short story for you guys. Local comic book shop in here in Fort Myers. When I first moved down to Fort Myers, all my friends were like, "Why aren't you in your local comic book shops?" I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a good salesman. Maybe I can't do it." So my friends have come down because there's Scout Comics that is in Fort Myers. All my friends, as they've come down, have not been able to get into any local comic book shops. So recently, one of the local comic book shops had a problem where they might be going out of business due to medical issues from the owner. And of course, in America, if you get sick, you lose everything. So they're trying to save the comic book shop. And when I was asked to become a bigger part of it, I said no. I said when Indie Comics needed him and people wanted to be in the shop and people wanted to do things, like I even told him we would do a mini event in his store, showed no interest. Now you need help. Now you want us to come bail you out. That's the problem with the comic book shops, is they don't want to change their business model. They want to continue to just sit back, put up Marvel and DC and do nothing else. They got to get involved in their local community, get new creators to come out to talk to people to excite the readership. If they started doing that, let me tell you, there's hundreds of creators who'd be more than happy to take the trip to go see a comic book shop and talk to fans and talk about comics all day. We do it on the weekends all the time. If you're not willing to make changes, what is it? It's evolve or die. And the comic book shops aren't evolving. And what'll come from it is hobby shops where cards are being sold at comic book shops. Because honestly, that's just easier and cheaper for them. And I don't have a problem with that. But it's the truth. It's not the indie creators that are to blame, not Kickstarter, not Indiegogo. It's the owners themselves. Because there's some great brands out there. Isn't there up north? What is the brand name that's in malls now? It's an actual comic book shop that's become a retailer.
Yeah.
I forgot. I don't know the name of Tom Hanks. I don't.
How far up north is that? Are you talking like graham
New
crackers
York.
around Chicago or what?
Oh, New York.
Midtown Comics and Graham Crackers.
Oh, Midtown, yeah. There are comic book shops that are going to be around forever because they change. They do signings. They get people excited. But if you just want to put Marvel up in your window and put a poster up and sit back and try to get money, you know, you're going to fall on deaf ears. And if you're going to complain to us about how hard it is to work, indie creators have to, a lot of times, have second jobs, give up all their weekends, and go out and hear how people don't read comic books. So you're crying to the wrong crowd because we're getting people invested in comic books. That's your job too.
It's really a store by store basis as to how they treat the independents.
Yeah.
I mean, stores here in Michigan, we're pretty lucky.
There are some amazing stores out there.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky. I mean, we got Green Brain Comics. They've always been very supportive of indie comics, and I mean, very supportive of me. Dennis Barger was the first person to actually pay me to put my book in his store.
Oh,
so
anyway,
people always get mad about that, but like, hey, Dennis has always done that for me. And there's not a lot of people that I've not run across any people who are like, don't put that stuff in my store. There were a few who didn't want to put it up intact after they had read through it, and that's fine. I would expect that. They don't know, if I'm putting porn in that book or not. Ralph says, so most shops, they just want to deal with one distributor and are lazy and do not want to get involved with more paperwork. That is correct, Ralph. I've heard that. And JR,
that's also an ingrained behavior that Diamond wants to, promote because they want all of that retailer money for themselves. You don't need to go anywhere else. We supply everything for you.
My feeling with this guy, Devin, is that Devin, I would say this. I think that it was Rob that just said it. Where were you when some of these books and these creators wanted to get their books in these stores? They were told no. I don't carry indie. No, indie doesn't sell. And now, because you hear indie selling, you're hoping to get in there. And the thing is, some of those people will still come back. But the thing is, some of those creators will still come and put their stuff in stores. But you have to understand this. If Larry makes 20 grand from Niobe, that's 20 grand that Larry is getting. And I don't think, now you got to tell Larry, oh, Larry, we want your book in the store, but instead of 20 grand, could you share some of that money with all of us? Larry just made 20 grand, by himself. He doesn't have to worry about sharing it with the store and with a distributor.
Right.
So he's figured out a way around them. And customers are still getting the book. Customers that wanted his book are still getting it. So it's going to be kind of hard, I think, for some of these stores to lure these indie guys back. And, I mean, it is unfortunate, but some of the stores may have to start actually, Ralph said they want to have one distributor, but they might have to start meeting some of these creators and calling them. I'm sure if a store called Rob or Larry or even me, or you, Randy, and said, hey, I want your book, but in order to drive sales for your book in my store, can I pay you to do me a exclusive cover for my store only? I mean, Marvel's doing that now.
Marvel and DC both. They've been doing it for years.
Yeah. And look, when you do a crowdfunding campaign, I see a lot of people, they'll put in like a retailer's tier so that if a retailer wants to order your book, they can get them at basically like a wholesale price to put in their store. And I think that's a great idea, and I've seen a lot of people do that. Yeah. My comic shop in particular is very good to the indies. We have a nice thriving indie scene here in Eastern Canada, and I think our comic shop houses all of them, including the local cons, are very big in supporting local indie comic book development here in this region. So I never ran into any problems like a store not carrying the indies. And my store can pretty much get anything we want, if it's available. And then you talk about the only distribution model being Diamond. And that is true. But now we're starting to see people like Peter Samedi from Alternative Press who are starting to do their own distribution and even offer a buyback program, which is phenomenal.
Mhm.
That come out of a matter of necessity, which most of the changes in the industry happen with anyway. But yeah, I can't wait to see Peter start offering other product as well as his own. So
There we go. All right.
out there, it'll be a good day when he breaks open his own um, wider distribution ship other than just alternative product, which he's hoping to do in the next, I think, 6 to 10 months.
Now let's get the panel's blood boiling
Oh,
with this letter from JT.
Here we go, JT.
You can do the robot with JT. Sorry.
There's nothing there about robots. I've never been a fan of intellectual property. Being indie guys, how do you all feel about copyright? If IP
Of IP.
of IP, and would you be okay with another creator using your IP to make stories and more for their own financial and career benefit? JT.
is this guy on crack or what?
Go ahead, Larry. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, sure. Steal my property and make money. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Come on, man. It's not how it works. You make your own property and make money. Why do you need to grab Rob's character or my character or Varian's character and make your own stories? If you want to do that, there's all kinds of public domain characters out there that you can go ahead and grab and rip off someone's idea. Don't need to do it to us.
There's some great cool characters out there too, just waiting to be exploited.
Sure, and I know Rob's got strong feelings about protecting intellectual property. So I think this is a great question for Rob.
Yeah, Rob, what you got?
Well, first off, I don't think he understands what an intellectual property is, because if he doesn't like intellectual properties, he doesn't like television, he doesn't like movies, he doesn't like music, he doesn't like poetry, he doesn't like the written word. Just doesn't understand it. Probably a guy who has a bedroom full of fan art and thinks fan art is the best thing that's ever come out of Comic Cons.
Mhm.
And he's probably the guy who gets the movies on the flash drive, thinks that Disney owes him something because they're a big, big company. The truth is that Disney actually employs hundreds of thousands of people and keeps people getting money and keeps people employed. And every time you start taking from that company, I guarantee you're not affecting their bottom line. You're affecting that worker in Disney who just gets their hours cut or their medical insurance cut. That's what companies do now.
I should notate that Rob lives in Orlando and is cities owned by Disney. So I'm just kidding. No, I'm joking.
I don't live in Orlando, but you're right. You're not kidding about Orlando. The Disney just took part of Orlando's land and was like, "What? It's ours." Literally public domained it without really trying. And,
We need it.
Yeah, that's it. Star Wars is coming. Thank you. And are moving people out. Like, they have to close down a section of Orlando. You're not kidding about that.
Yeah.
But still, they'll employ people. Guys like this who want to sit at home watching everything for free and not expecting anything will be the first guy who gets mad when I show up to his house, kick open his door, grab a soda from his fridge, sit down and start playing his video game system. Because it'll be like, but that's mine. And it's the same thing with Napster all over again. Oh, I want free music. It's free on the radio. Yeah, it's free on television too if you have a bunny ear antenna. But you can't take the television with you all the time. You got to buy apps and stuff. This is how society works. You want to be a communist? Move to Russia.
Randy?
Yes.
Any thoughts on this?
In my mind, I echo Rob and Larry 100%. But I've had that happen to me where somebody have come up and taken an intellectual property of mine and made it theirs. Mm-hmm. To me, I just wasn't that connected to it.
Yeah.
And I saw what they were doing with it, and they were doing their best on it, and I'm like, just let it go and see what happens.
It's Randy's talking about when I stole Spank the Monkey. No.
I've done a lot of characters over the years, and somebody from the area went and moved to another portion of the state and suddenly had the exact same type of character, mm-hmm. same look, same feel, just his own interpretation of it. And I'm like, do what you got to do. That's okay. I'm not gonna, stomp my feet and raise and complain. I wasn't that connected to the character in the first place. But I do have other IPs out there that if anybody gets close to them, they're gonna get squeezed.
Ted Davies says, "Here's my attorney's number, JT." I would agree with that. I think that we have to be very careful with what we're doing. You know, take someone's character. Oh, I like this idea. I'm gonna take it. It's mine.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I got a comment from. Yeah.
Because some of that stuff might even be subconscious too.
Mark Piero says, Martin Piero. I'm sorry. I hope I got your name right, Martin. It's on Larry's page. He says, fan art is stealing.
We're not even talking about standard. You know what this guy said in this question is, hey, how about I take Niobe and I'm going to make my own Niobe comic, call her Niobe, and sell it as Niobe and make money because I don't believe in intellectual property. I don't believe that you should own your own character. That's what he's saying in this question. It's ridiculous.
Which is fan art. That's exactly fan art. No matter how you slice it, that's exactly what they do with fan art. Marvel and DC own it.
If I don't know if I would suggest everybody turn their speakers down, because I got some news for you guys. This person makes comics. This person makes comics. The person, I know.
How original are those comics, though?
They're original. I mean, if you know me, you probably know who this is. So,
be having Barbara's Unleashedness.
Well, you'll let me know after the show. I'm gonna have to monitor him now. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Barbara. Was he
Unfettered?
Yeah, Unfettered.
You just started a watch party.
I think it was Barbie Unfettered. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
So I got a watch party rocking on Facebook, and Martin does say here, a good lawyer would eat that guy for lunch.
Yeah. We can get yeah. So Barbie Unfettered. We'll get Shiobi. All the dollar store great value versions of our
Norobi. I seen that.
He's not even talking about like just ripping, changing the name. He's talking about like flat out like I'm just going to make my own Niobe comics, and you don't own it.
I mean,
good luck with that.
I think that so many people got a bad taste in their mouth because they think that we're just trying to be corporate pricks and just this is mine and you can't play with it. And that's kind of true. I thought of this. I created this.
It's mostly corporate pricks in the mainstream. Is that what you're talking about?
Like, Randy, do you want anybody playing with Spank? You don't want anybody spanking your monkey, right?
That's not a good example.
Well, I just don't see the logic of someone else getting paid for my hard work, when they have nothing to do with it, right?
Right.
Like it's so ridiculous concept, That'd be like me grabbing Harley Quinn and producing Harley Quinn comics and putting them on Kickstarter. What do you think is going to happen to me in about 2.5 seconds,
Well, look at all of those people that have ripped off Superman over the years, and that goes back decades, and almost from Superman's creation.
Ralph says we did a Gambit affair in Fantastic Fanzine. Shameful face. Parody. That's a ticket.
Yeah. There's a difference between parody and ripoff, though.
Yeah.
It's satire and picking on somebody's property, doing Super Duper Man instead of Superman. But you saw Amazing Man and Wonder Man and all back in the 30s and 40s, and even nowadays you see Supreme pop up, and there was another one, Legacy, I think it was called, that another side company back in the 90s, early 2000s had for a little while. Guy was all dressed in black. And even the companies rip off their own characters more than
Now, before we jump into what you guys got coming,
creativity. Anyway,
we'll forget what you guys got coming, what you guys are working on. Real quick, one of our topic of the day is the fight for independence. We gentlemen, we are at, and gentleman and lady, we are at a moment in history where me and the great Randy Zim have discovered that there's a war coming. It's not that big of a war. It's just people need some definitions. Yeah. Definitions. And Rob actually touched on this because Rob, I swear Rob has ESP, and me and Randy will make up something, and then Rob will post it, and he has no idea that we talked about this. Yeah. Either he's working for Amazon or something.
Alexa. His Alexa's tied to your Alexa, which listens to our conversation. That's what it is. Right now, Varian and Randy, you're talking about independent comics.
And I'm about to lose some viewers here because they'll probably get pissed at me. I'm going to get some hate mail.
We've already lost some viewers. I don't know where they go.
I was on, and so was Larry. Larry and both me and Larry were on Ethan Van Sciver's show last night. I was on it for a very quick amount of time. Larry, you were on there for about what 2-3 minutes?
Oh, probably more like 10. I mean, I had a
Okay.
pretty good debate with old EVS there.
Yeah. Now,
I missed that. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it.
now my question is, I was talking to some people, and I was like, man, listen, indie comics are alive and well. We got I know a creator who, he was able to show his wife, look, these are the numbers. Look at these numbers. Look what we're doing. And she's all for comics now because, yeah, you did, wow, this is great money. And I'm like, these comics that some of these guys have done are making money, and it's showing this is still a viable industry. And I was told, well, those are indie comics, Varian. Those aren't indie comics. Those are alt-right, right-wing comics, and they don't count. And my mind, I was shocked. I was taken aback. I was all kind of other words, all kind of other I just don't understand how we're not, or how someone could say, okay, that's not an indie comic. Although, what is the definition of an indie comic? So me and Randy started talking about that, and Rob, I'm not sure if you got much feedback when you posted that, but Randy and I were talking about what makes an independent company, and would everybody here be in agreement when we say that Image is not an independent comic company?
Actually, I'd say they are.
Yeah, I would agree with Rob that they are.
Yeah, I feel differently. When you're considered to be one of the big three, I don't necessarily think you're independent anymore. Image has, advertisers. Image has endorsements. Image has all sorts of deals underneath the sun. When I say indie, and I got my own definition of indie, but to me, independent comic book creators are people that have comic books that don't have wide distribution in, say, Diamond and comic shops nationwide. There are guys like me, Rob, and whoever that are doing this from the ground up, self-producing, self-promoting, and getting their work out there. If I was, say, part of a comic book company that had Diamond distribution, I probably at that point wouldn't consider myself an independent, because now you're being not you're being published by a company that turns you from amateur to professional. You know what I mean? And so I see a huge difference in that.
So the fact that the creators at Image are responsible to make sure that Image hits a bottom line, that they are literally spending their money on these books if they don't clear a profit, that doesn't make them independent?
There's certainly a certain amount of risk that if your book fails, it fails. And that's why Image is extremely picky with who and what they take. Not everyone can go to Image with an independent comic book and get published.
That's up for an opinion.
Well, I mean, it's true.
Because I've seen some of that stuff out of Image lately, and I go, what in the heck are they thinking?
Well, and I thought the same thing. When I submitted Niobe #1, I thought it was better than some of the stuff they were pumping out, but yet it got rejected. So, it is what it is.
Give me the hot tag, Varian.
The hot tag?
Yeah, I got a lot to say about this. I actually never got to say anything about it in my own post.
Yeah, go ahead.
Answered because I was busy with the awards. So here we go. Indie comics is about
I'm on fire.
Owning your own books. Image allows creators to own their creations. There's nothing more independent than that. Indie is the idea, and this goes back to Will Eisner. It's about creating things without the big companies controlling it. So if you're a creator and you control it, you're an indie property. I do agree that indie has gotten diluted because we've forgotten about terms like small press. We've forgotten about the fact that studios and publishers really aren't indie because they are, by definition, a business. But the creators behind them can still be indie, and that's why Image is indie, because like Randy was saying, they are creators who are literally bankrolling other creators and letting them keep their actual properties. So that's why it's indie. And if we're talking about advertising, then that means every indie creator who ever had a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo just literally lost their ability to call themselves indie because they had people back them for more than the cover price. So if that's not advertising for you and that's not giving you something outside, and I crowdfund, so I'm here, then that wouldn't work. We can't blame people for making money. That's not the answer. What we can say is that Boom Studios isn't part of it because Boom goes out and gets Hollywood money to produce things, and that's all they do. And then they pick up titles and they own it. I had this with Vampirella, forget how to say her name. Someone dressed up as her in indie and called it an indie cosplay. I'm like, that's not indie anymore. Maybe once upon a time, yes. But not
Vampirella?
Vampirella?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an own character now. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I know that the original creators technically can still write their own stories, but they don't own it anymore. That's not indie. Someone dressed up like a turtle, I wouldn't say that's an indie cosplay. And I do think that people forget that. We look at it money. It's always money. Disney can afford. Image has a lot of money. It doesn't matter about money. I want to make millions. I want to make billions if I can on the comic books I want. But I don't want anyone to own my IPs. Yeah. When I do movies, when I do television shows, I'll own my intellectual property. I've turned down publishers and I've turned down deals because people wanted ownership, and I'm not giving ownership up for nothing. Not unless it's a big check and it's from Disney. Disney's probably the only one who can make me sell my morals because they have deep pockets.
The formula, I always thought, and the idea, the goal is to go mainstream with your property. I mean, now people are going to call you a sellout, and that's fine. But you can laugh all the way to the bank. But I do think that we cannot say that those books, it's because you don't like the people and their politics behind those books, they don't somehow qualify as indie. And if the qualifier here is money, I mean, then I don't think that holds water, because if, like, okay, when Randy and I were talking about it, so we know Marvel, DC, they aren't what we would consider indie, and I think there should be definitions like indie, mainstream, indie, or maybe mainstream, small press, and then indie.
Well, indie commercial.
Well, I don't think that's going to work anymore.
No?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons people have forgotten the term small press is because the mainstream is printing some pretty small numbers anymore.
That's true. Marvel's small press now compared to Kickstarter.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that Marvel and DC both do that there are secondary companies out there, that are printing more copies of their stuff than what Marvel and DC's doing.
I'll say this to the selling out comment. I'm going to say the exact same thing that Metallica said when people accused them of selling out. No, we didn't sell out. We sold in. You know what I mean? And if a deal was to come my way for Niobe that looked really, really good, and I'm with Rob. I mean, I definitely want to keep ownership of my own property, but I'll certainly have a look at any sort of offer that came down the pipe. But my goal is to get out of crowdfunding at some point and be published by a comic book company, whether it's Antarctic Press or Heavy Metal Magazine or Action Lab or whoever it may be. I want to be in comic shops on a monthly basis, and crowdfunding for me, is a good way to get my foot in the door. It's like wrestling in the indies and you want to go to the WWE, but I want to be able to produce comic books faster and more reliable and have the better distribution than maybe doing 1 or 2 comic books a year and then crowdfunding them,
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would I would definitely consider my publishing company independent, because it's based off of my income. And so I mean, you don't get much more independent than that. No one tells me what to do. And I've often said that greatest weakness is that I'm independent, greatest strength is that I'm independent, because I can do things that they can't do. I don't have these corporate masters I have to serve, unless you're talking about my wife, then yeah. But and so I think that those are things that are very important. So you guys would consider Image a indie company. Would you consider Dynamite an indie company?
No, because they own things.
All right, because Image technically does not own anything. Technically,
no, they don't. Not even technically, they don't.
Yeah, they own the Image eye, and that's it.
Yeah, that's basically it. And they own a share. I think there's a share to the ownership of the actual brand name, if I'm not mistaken.
Would you consider Boom independent?
Nope, they buy things.
Okay,
yeah, they own.
All right. Would you consider this is really Dark Horse?
No.
Isn't Dark Horse now owned by DC?
Didn't
DC buy
no, I don't think.
I never heard that. That's interesting. If that's
no,
true.
I don't think they own that. They're still independent. But
right.
There's very, very few properties that Dark Horse prints that are independent. They do print independent properties. Like I'm sure Mignola still owns Hellboy. or some sort of controlling interest in Hellboy. But I'm sure Dark Horse gets a nice percentage of everything of that they print.
Yeah, a lot of these companies being mentioned, they do a lot of licensed properties, right? So they'll get a license for GI Joe, or license for the Turtles, or license for Red Sonja, or license for even IDW's got the license for the kids Marvel's comic book line. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I guess again, it's how you define indie. For me, I define indie as pretty much as like small press or lower. But everyone's got their definition of it. But I think maybe small press for me, might be a better term.
How do you feel about would you say Vault or we got Vault, we got Scout, would you guys consider those indie?
See, I'm unaware of those two companies, but there's Absolute Comics, which I would probably consider indie. There's Action Lab Comics, which I would probably consider indie.
Alterna.
Alterna.
Alterna, yeah, that's another good example.
Because Samedi doesn't own those properties. He
Yeah.
prints them, but he doesn't own them. He doesn't own the IP.
Right. And
Caliber is the same way. They'll print your property for a percentage, but they don't own your property.
Right. We my company, Last Call, we don't own books we print, like except for the ones that I've created technically. But there was a situation where we had to fund a book, and we took small ownership in certain elements of that book. But yeah, that's something that to help fund the book, help to get the book off the ground. Would you guys ever be? Are you guys okay with calling those Comicsgate books independent?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
I like something to understand what it is.
I mean, if they're not independent comic books, what are they?
Yeah.
Well, according to people I've spoke to, they're
what are they called though? If they're not called independent comic books, what kind of name did they give to them?
yeah, I can't see that proper company.
We do have the MATV symbol up there.
Well, I'm just saying they're comic books.
It probably fits within
and
that
they're not,
criteria.
They're not part of the corporate juggernaut. So what else can they be but independent comic books?
They've been called everything from alt-right propaganda to trash because people don't like the creators behind the books.
Well, they just don't like the books or what
Variant.
they're doing, and they're jealous of the money they're making.
Stop talking to flat earthers. This is a goal for you.
There we go.
Stop talking to them, and your life will get better.
Yeah, I gotta leave those flat earthers alone.
Someone may not like, say, Ethan Van Sciver, but that doesn't change the fact that Cyberfrog is still a comic book that was independently made. It's an independent comic book by the sheerest, most simple form of definition.
I personally do believe they are comic books. I mean, look, there are some books that I've seen that should not be considered comics, but damn it, they are. Okay. You see some books that I've read.
That's like trying to split the term comics and graphic novel.
Yeah.
I think anything that's indie is stuff that's not corporate.
Right.
And is a personally owned, IP.
Ted had said that Barbara Unleashes Disney's new princess, Rob.
Damn.
And then Ralph says indie for me is anything non-DC or Marvel, and those companies can actually overcrowd the market, shelf space with properties with little or no profits. Yeah, they can. I mean,
when you look back at some of these comic companies are starting to be publicly owned. IDW is responsible to stockholders. I know that for a fact. I'm not sure. I think Valiant's the same way. Yeah. So they're not really independent. So then they're not really, depending upon your definition of mainstream, I'd consider them more mainstream than independent. But all the corporate owned stuff is, when you have to go out and hire 5 cogs in order to do a product on a property that you own, kind of not independent.
Yeah, that is very true. So let's look at this real quick. Hold on, I want to bring this up. We're going to start with Rob. Rob, you, sir, have a crowdfunding campaign currently going.
I do.
This is it.
Yes, it is.
Barbara Unleashed. Won't you do me a favor, sir, and tell all of these lovely people watching and listening on INDIEVOLT Radio, which right now I want to actually thank those people.
We don't mean to be ignoring you guys.
Yeah, we're not ignoring
you're
them.
Here all over the world. We're getting listeners.
We're not ignoring you. Those 809 people. That's cool. 809 people listen on INDIEVOLT Radio. Thanks for tuning in. So, and if you want to see our pretty faces, you can tune into YouTube right now, just look at IndieVolt, and you will be able to see our pretty faces. So if you sell so before we get into that though, Rob, Josh Lyman, who's a frequenter panelist on the show, he writes in and says, so if you sell the film TV rights to property for a year and a half, does that make it corporate? Short version, what is the line to make it corporate?
Well, no, if you sell the rights to a property for a year and a half, you're still independent.
Mhm.
Even though you don't own the rights to that property, you're perfectly welcome to create other properties that, you know, you can independently do with whatever you want. But if a corporation comes in and pays you not just for the rights but the ownership of that property has become corporate and is no longer independent.
Yeah, and this question here says if the company bought it for a year and a half, so that means that essentially that's a license. They have your property for a year and a half, and when that license is essentially over, you would get that property back. So
Very right. Yeah. You still have some sort of control over it. You can sit there with the calendar and wait for the time to run out and go, it's mine again. Thank you.
Thanks for
You
the
have
win.
that option of not re-upping.
I remember I read somewhere it says don't sell your property or don't option your property for a film for less than 10 grand. Like that was like
that was standard rate.
yeah, that's the way that they said less than 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like what? I snort that in a month. I'm just kidding. All right, Rob, let's talk about your title, Barbara Unleashed, your new Kickstarter. You got 17 days left to go on it. Tell us about it now, because this is a re-release, but this is a little bit different. This is rare.
Oh, well, the Kickstarter is part of the 100s that Kickstarter did. Basically, Kickstarter wanted us creators to come to Kickstarter and make their January not suck. So they gave us basically the permission to release anything that we would have up to 100 of. I used the opportunity to actually kickstart our third issue, Barbara Unleashed, which gives a brand new actual ending to the series. This is Mentor's Search. For those who don't know, the third issue was actually hit by a hurricane and an earthquake, and that's why the ending always seemed a little off, because we actually had to split the book that was originally just supposed to be in issue number 2 into 2 different parts. So we finally gave it an ending it deserved as it. And of course, it used to be called Fetish Babies. For those who want to send variant emails, I'll answer them later. This is a story that is like 50 Shades of Grey. If it was written by an adult who knew what they were talking about and had an educational aspect to it, as opposed to an abusive blueprint that belongs on more of an NBC SVU show, like 50 Shades of Grey. So if you ever wanted to seriously know about what it was to have a fetish, what the fetish community was, as opposed to all the jokes that you see on television or read in books or comics, then this is your opportunity. It actually really does tell about the community behind everything. And the funny thing is that a lot of people are like, and I always find this funny, they're like, oh my God, he wrote a book about sex. For those who read the book, they know it's not about sex. And then I get the other thing where people are like, oh my God, you can't work with him. He talks about sexuality. And then these same people are the ones creating comic books about murder. So what I've learned in my journey is that I can create a book about killing people, but heaven forbid I talk about human sexuality. And that's the point of the book, is to teach people that it's 2020, get over your, the MA is up. So get over your shit and start acting like an adult. If you don't like something, move on. Don't become that social justice warrior that's trying to save women, because there are a lot of women who want done to them what's going to be done. And my favorite thing that I have been telling from con to con, and I can't stop laughing about, is the fact that Varian actually told me someone said that I created a comic book to get laid. I thought that was amazing. That had never been said before in all of the existence of humanity. So now at every show I go, I'm the guy who created a comic book to get laid, and I get a laugh.
Oh, well, I hope there are comic book groupies out there. Come see me.
Notice he's like, I hope there are, because he doesn't know if there are. So far, we don't think they exist.
Well, yeah, I mean,
there's always groupies of money, though. So if anything hits, suddenly there's groupies.
Yeah,
and haters.
Yeah.
Well, I got haters for free.
But groupies are better. Groupies are better.
I'm poor and I got the haters already. I want to be rich so I can get the lovers.
There we go.
Like, can I just get a groupie, please? Why is this not? What's not happening to me? So the book here, Rob, is this is let's see, hold on. This is Okay, it's on the screen. Phew, my computer froze for a second. Okay. So 100 copies, limited to that. This is shipping in February 2020.
Yep.
And let me see. You have. Wait, let me see. Are you going? You have 4 backers there on the PDF. Which one? Now this collects issues. You said 3, 1 to 3, or just 3?
Well, this is the first time ever that we've had the opportunity to take the old format, which was magazine size. It was called Fetish Babies, and now put it next to the newly released Barbara Unleashed, which when we re-released it, we just didn't put it in a different size. We went back, we re-edited it. We made sure every word mattered. We played with the art a little bit. We made it more palatable for people to read the first book, because the first book turned out the way I'd written it, helped my dyslexia to be able to read it, because the first book's told in a very unique fashion where it's part blog, part comic. So you get to actually see the character writing her blog, and you get to see her mental images by all the art that shows up on the pages. So it's a very interesting infusion of different ideas, kind of like Sex and the City meets an actual comic book format, because in Sex and the City they always showed her typing at her computer. This was basically the character typing at her computer, and you get to see her mental images. That picture actually is from Chris Madd. If you look at the book she's sitting on, there's a hidden message for the creator of 50 Shades of Grey that I put there for her.
I've seen that 50 Shades of Icon BS.
And that stays throughout the line. It's all about creating a discussion, a way for us to talk. In February, we release our 4th issue, which is actually a standalone issue and might start its own series, which goes almost completely educational to the point where you don't need the other 3 books. That'll be a standalone issue where you won't need to know the character's background. It's like if you guys read something on Huffington Post, it would have a sound that someone was writing it, like there's a human writing it, but you don't need to know who that human is right away. You could go later find out who they are if you like what she's writing. But in this case, most of it's just about it's actually going to be a book that helps people understand their own sexuality. It's a very interesting project. And that was originally when we were going to release Mentor Search 3.2, which is Barbara Unleashed 3, at the same time. But then we found out about this 100. I have all these old books from the old line that I didn't have anything to do with, because I'm sure you guys understand this. You go to a show, you can only display so many books. Yeah. You can't put everything on your table. So I've had these in a box, and when I saw this 100, I'm like, hell yeah. I got some books that were printed under 100, and I know some people have asked me about getting these original books, and so I put it out on Kickstarter, and so far it's done better than my kid's book, which is killing me, but it sells. And I'm a horrible person when it comes to promoting myself. I haven't promoted this Kickstarter at all. I barely put it on social media. I really haven't done. I did one video about it finally last night, and because I've been so busy with the awards or busy doing other things, and you can get things like The Avocator in here. I have my children's book hidden in an angelic reward because I can't name the book within the Kickstarter because that's too much of a crossover. But there are some people who wanted to get that book from me, and you get some of my more rare things, like the things I wrote when I first got into comics. The first comic book I ever made is available in this, and there are literally only about probably 20 copies of that book ever created. And Hurricane and Giving Away Here Comic-Con left me with like four or five of them on one of them, and you guys are going to have the opportunity to get it. And of course, the Monsters book, which we're going to also reformat this year, The Last of What Remains, is yours to have on this Kickstarter. Because anything I don't sell from the Fetish Babies line goes into a literal safe in an undisclosed location, not at my house, certainly not in my closet, and will be locked away until I hit it really big, and then I'll sell it to Larry for like $6,000.
It's a good deal. It's a good deal.
And you got, what was it, 17 days left?
Yeah, I got some time.
Yeah, and I mean, you've already crossed your goal because you never put high goals up. Your goal was $100. You made $770, so you're well over your goal.
I always tease my friends who are on Kickstarter who raise a lot of money and say they want someone to pay for their art. I'm like, well, that's not your art anymore. You had other people pay for it. It's community art now. If you ask people to pay for your art, it's community art. I only ask for printing.
Yeah.
Only ask for printing. That's all I do with the money is I print.
Yeah, that's kind of mean, man. It's kind of mean. People are gonna get ticked at you. You have that, and I think that now, since you got 17 days left to go on that one, so that 2 weeks, you'll be finishing that before the end of this month. What's your next project after this?
Well, the next book, the fourth one, that's going to be about the human sexuality.
Okay, I read that one already. I'm sorry. That was Josh's question. And so everyone, if you are interested in getting a hold of that rare Barbara Unleashed book, you need to go over to Kickstarter. Check out Barbara Unleashed limited editions and Written Sands Comics 100s. Again, these are going to be rare. Once they're gone, they're pretty much gone. To he's going to lock them in the fetish vault. Yeah, straps and whips and everything. You don't want to go in there; you'll get hurt.
The collector item ones, from when Catwoman was here at the lair.
Yeah, is your safe a safe word? Safe?
No.
So that's and then let's see. Oh, I want to see one last thing on this campaign. To get a physical copy of the book, what's the purple level? So war level. The printer.
There are a lot of them, but if you're looking to just get involved as not a collector, there's even a reward which has a flip book in the third issue, and it's table price at that point. Where I think I put it at $35, which is what I sell it at a table, and you pay for shipping, because that's not collectible at all. Because a lot of my books, when we re-released it, were released as just 100 copy issues because we were racing to do a trade. But it turned out a lot of people like my book as issues and not trades. It was weird. They actually like the individual ones because I've got some interesting covers. Like did you see the Catwoman cover? If you keep scrolling,
yeah,
that is very popular, and we're doing a different take on it that will have a New York City scene to it. That mirror one is like people love it, and it's great that it didn't work on the Indiegogo, because I would have lost the ability to reprint it because Indiegogo sucked. I can print more of these now. I said if Indiegogo worked, we'd never print this as a cover again. Everyone hated me on Indiegogo, so here we go. We're printing more covers.
Have you ever run into a problem with a printer? That's from our iNDIEVOLT radio. They want to know if you ever ran into a problem with a printer who didn't want to print your content.
Oh yeah, the first book right after that hurricane and that the earthquake, which the earthquake was in Mexico for my artist. We finally got the book done. I sent it off. This is our third book. I've done the other two through the printer, and no, I did the first one through the printer. I was doing the second one because the second one was ready to go before the third. The second one goes to the printer, and the printer. This is right when Me Too happens. We talked about this. Once Me Too hit, it destroyed the fetish community on Facebook. People went after people because they thought that fetish was just about making, because it's put on a lot of places that men take advantage of women. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the culture. We address that, actually, that people do get taken advantage of, but people make it out to something ugly. A lot of people know what they're getting into when they're getting into this. Just like having sex, everyone knows what they're there for. And for the most part, and when you read my book, you learn this, there are rules to this shit. And we go over those rules. So when we got to the third book, we went to our printer, who already said they were going to do it. And the Me Too movement had just started, and suddenly we weren't getting an email back. So I finally sent an email to the guy's boss, and the guy finally emailed me back, "Oh, we can't do it right now. We're over capacity." I've never heard anyone say I can't do, printing. It's the first time in my life. And I read between the lines, and it was Panther Printing in Fort Myers, and it really pissed me off. Thank you to Kablam, who bailed me out. I was able to get my books out. And that wasn't the first time I had a problem with a printer. Kraken Printing, which you all know the story about them, with issue number 1, left me high and dry. And a lot of people don't know this. The original Kickstarter for Fetish Babies, we lost money on because I used Amazon as a fulfillment company. And I had Amazon print every one of those books. So people who have who got the books from Kickstarter for the original Fetish Babies don't even have the copy I have in my house right now. They got the exclusive Amazon one because I didn't want to be late on delivering, so I went out of pocket to make sure everyone got their books.
like slip back the pimp said, never get caught out of pocket.
That's
But I'll
but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do if you want them coming back. You gotta give them a taste.
I'm glad you got that handled. Hope that answered your question, Indievo Radio. Now we are going to move over to Larry's book that he has. He has a crowdfunding campaign on as Kickstarter as well, Larry.
Indeed. Well, it's not live yet, but I sent you a preview link on Facebook. I don't know if that's going to pop up for you.
Can I put that up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
This would be like the people's like real first sneak peek into it.
Niobe Birthright, part 1 of 2. Can we see that? All right.
Yeah, blow it up.
So here we got Niobe Birthright, part 1 of 2. Can't wait till she meets Bonsai Girl. I'm just kidding.
Who's Bonsai Girl?
You never heard of Bonsai Girl?
No, but
Bonsai Girl's a long story.
Yeah. So it's a long story, but she's. I remember giving them several of my dollars at a show because I was a young guy and I was like, oh my god. But yeah, so this is Larry's book, Niobe, and it hasn't launched yet.
No, it hasn't launched yet. We're looking to launch it in 2 days. It's still under like it's been submitted for review and we're just waiting for the green light.
Okay. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Anybody else hear that? No?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was hearing it there for a second.
All right. I think it's gone now. But now, Larry, tell us a little bit about Niobe.
So Niobe's been around for a long time. I created her in 1990 when I was like 16 years old, when I was like role-playing tabletop RPG games. And it was like for a game called Heroes Unlimited. And I would always just kind of draw her and, very badly, mind you. But I had a collection of all these pictures for like, the last 25 years or so. And I started getting back into comic books again. I was starting going to conventions. And then I discovered this wonderful place called Artist Alley. And what I found in Artist Alley is that these artists, if you pay them money, they'll draw you things. And so instead of like doing what people would usually do, it's like, hey, can you draw me Spider-Gwen or Harley Quinn or something like that? I said, hey, I have this like original character. I got this idea, but I would like to see what it would look like through the eyes of a professional. And I started getting these artists to draw Niobe. And it was just, one cool picture after another to the point where I was finally like, man, I'm going to make this into a comic book, Mm-hmm. And I told that to a group of my friends in the kitchen. And I got laughed out of the room. Yeah, right. You're never going to be able to do that. Well, in 2015, we did. We put out Niobe #1, and we've been going strong ever since. We had 2, 3, 4. We did the first spin-off book, which is Avani Origins, who was like Niobe's arch nemesis. And then on Indiegogo, I took a spin there, and we just reprinted Niobe #1 with a new cover for Indiegogo buyers. And that campaign was successful. Mind you, it wasn't 6 figures or anything, but we made funding and we got books out. So that's the long and short of her origin in the sense of the creation side of things. But she's a Japanese pop star who is a genome, which stands for a genetic anomaly, which is basically my world's version of mutants. And she discovers that every time she teleports, it's causing havoc on her body. It turns out the human body doesn't handle jumping through time and space very well. It's a shock to the system. And so Niobe's, she's learning this, and so she's got to use her powers wisely, and she's a little bit reckless. She's still learning when and when not to jump into action, because you never know, the next time that she jumps into action could cause her serious harm, or maybe even one day kill her. And so we did these comics, and I was going on a certain storyline, and you got to remember that Niobe is the first comic book I ever did, right out of the gate, and so it's like having a clay that you have to mold and shape. And after doing 4 issues, which were all in black and white, by the way, there was a bit of a break, and I decided to come back with Niobe, but kind of do a soft reboot of the series. So I got a brand new team together. We're in full color now, and I'm taking the story in a different direction. We're going to start doing Niobe in the form of mini series. So this is part 1 of 2. So it's going to be a 2-part mini series, and I'll probably do another 2-part mini series. And then maybe after that, I might do like a 3-parter or a 4-parter, down the road. So this is 1 of 2 for Birthright.
Now, real quick before you go back into that, now you said that you did this is a soft reboot, and Risey Lee says, yeah, Niobe. You said you did a soft reboot. What changed? Are there any changes, character changes? Or anything?
I disregarded the storyline that I was going with. I wasn't really happy with some of the interior art. I wanted, because it's been a year since Niobe 4 between this one, and my mind has changed a lot in the span of a year. This is why trying to do an ongoing series, crowdfunding, doesn't really work out that well when you're only be able to produce a book maybe once or twice a year, because people will forget what you're doing, And so I was doing like this long story arc that I was going to have continue like over 12 issues, and I just kind of completely abandoned that. I took my clay, I put it back into a ball, and I'm reshaping it. And I figured if there's going to be any time to reboot the series or change it, it's going to be now while it's still in its infancy.
Mm-hmm. Are you worried that some people will like the fans who were fans of that first iteration will not like this one? You're gonna lose some fans? Are you worried about that?
I think they're gonna love it.
Okay.
I think they're gonna love it. And to be quite frank, Niobe was never like a big huge book, so we're talking about a very small amount of people, maybe a couple of hundred that may have backed the projects throughout the years, and some of the people that I met at local shops. But I mean, the people that know me locally, they all know what's going on, and the people that follow me on a regular basis all know what's going on.
Right.
And for someone new coming in, they'll be able to jump into this, and they don't have to worry about what happened in the first 4 issues, and it's not really relevant anymore.
Right. And now too, those first issues are definitely gonna go for more money now. So I have to see what I can do about getting those myself.
I'll hook you up, brother. Don't worry.
So we have your here's Niobe Birthright. I'm gonna put up full screen here, and you are asking. You haven't started this campaign yet. It starts on the 16th.
Well, I'm hoping that's the target date. Yeah.
So you're gonna.
If Kickstarter takes longer than usual to approve it, then we might be a day or two late. But the target date is the 16th.
So you're asking $2,910, and
I want to use out to in the U.S. because in Canada, you know what that is? That's $3,800 Canadian.
Is it?
Yeah. So I mean, that's how I see it on my end, because it doesn't do the conversion rate. So all the prices that you're going to see are actually going to be different than what's on my end, because everything I have is in Canadian currency.
And if you're listening in Hong Kong, don't get sticker shock. I just purchased an item from Hong Kong, and wow, what it wrote down for the number, I got scared because I'm like, I didn't pay $1,000 for that thing. But yeah. So your project is $2,910 is your intended goal here in the great states of America. That's right. Let's see here.
So this comes down to like when you talked about Rob, and his goal and my goal. I always believe that you should have a goal of what it takes to get the book funded and out to people.
Mm-hmm.
Anything beyond that's a bit of a bonus. But for me to get the book out, it's going to be at least $1,000 in printing minimum. It's going to be at least $1,000 in shipping minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And then pay for some of the extra perks, stretch goals and stuff like that.
And then let's see here. JR says, I want a copy, LOL, but seriously, yeah, everyone wants a copy. You can go over there in a couple of days when this campaign launches. We'll make sure we put it up on our Facebook when.
I'm so excited about this. We got some really good names on this book. So some professional names in the industry. Samir, he's probably. That's cover A. That's done by the interior artist Samir Samail. He's a great guy from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered him through a guy named Kevin Perron, who does a book called Galaxio. So Kevin was like, somewhat of a quasi agent for some people who's hooking people up with artists and writers and colorists. So I found this guy through Kevin. And here's one thing I see in comic books, or I don't see in comic books often enough, is it used to be the interior artist would also do the cover, right? And those days seem to be long gone. I'll go buy Black Cat and it's a J. Scott Campbell cover, but it's something completely different inside. So I want to make sure that Samir had a cover for the book, and that it was going to be cover A, so that what people saw on the cover knows what they're getting on the inside of the book.
Right.
But that didn't stop us from doing variants.
Yeah. And here's another one. We got Steph Wilson.
Steph Wilson is on fire right now. If you are on Facebook at all and you're looking at indie comic books and the different various groups, you'll see Steph Wilson start all over the place. Steph Wilson's doing stuff for Fire Bitch right now. Steph Wilson's doing stuff for Tom Hutchinson over at Big Dog Inc. Steph Wilson's worked for Harley Finn, the Harley Quinn parody. Steph Wilson is everywhere, and including now on Niobe.
That's cool. And then we're gonna go down to RB White. Now I like this cover here myself. This is
Yeah,
one
a
of my
lot
favorite.
of people like this cover. See, the great thing about RB White is he's Canadian, and he teaches animation at a university in Ontario, and he does work for Nickelodeon. But on top of that, RB White can do some really sexy imagery. He's worked for companies like Zenoscope, doing some stuff for Grim Fairy Tales. He's worked for Action Lab Comics, doing stuff for Zombie Tramp and whatnot. He's been featured in Penthouse Magazine and featured in Heavy Metal.
That's cool. I like that cover. And then this is the cover, the other one, Paul Green. Now this is the cover that you use this for the
Yeah.
image, custom image.
Well, this is a cover that we hope launches 1,000 ships, right? So this is done by Paul Green, who is phenomenal. He's got a very sort of J. Scott Campbell-like style. People might ask me where her organs are. Trust me, they're all there. They're in place. And it's colored by the great Ula Moss. And Ula Moss is legendary in the business. Like, someone says, well, what do you mean? I pulled out my Black Cat, number 8 and said, look, this is drawn by J. Scott Campbell, and look who did the colors, Ula Moss. You know what I mean? Ula Moss has also done some great work over for Brian Pulido on Lady Death, and so has Paul Green. So Paul Green's been around, done stuff for Zenoscope, doing stuff for Big Dog Inc. right now. He's done stuff for Brian Pulido. So he was a bucket list artist that I couldn't believe I nailed to work on Niobe.
That's cool. That's cool. And you got so now this has not launched yet, so everyone has time to get their money together and run over there. Got some pages of the art. He's got buttons. Now these are 4 new buttons for your collection, limited availability. So you've got now I see the I see some cover art. There's 2 other ones that aren't cover art.
Yeah, so one is basically the Virgin cover for the original Niobe #1. The other one is kind of blocked out by the light. I tried to get a better shot of that, and it was just so hard. It's basically a chibi Niobe, And then prints. Yeah, so we got a couple of prints out of the gate. We got one by C.K. Russell, who's a longtime contributor of Niobe. She's from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. And then we have Kylie Knight, who drew this adorable Niobe chibi, racing her little heart out here. And Kylie Knight, again, is, she's a wonderful colorist, but also a great artist in her own right. And she's also doing work for Quidinson. I can't even say the word. Quidinson. Fuck, I'm not even going to try. She's doing work for Big Dog Inc. Coincidentally, man, I don't know what's wrong with me. I finally spit it out. Yeah.
If everybody, by the way, side note, if anybody wants to see Lola's face turn, just say admirably.
Admirably.
She hates that word. She hates it.
She's totally shaking her head.
Yeah. She how admirable. I'm gonna get in trouble later.
She doesn't look amused, man.
So we have. Let's see. We have. Oh, I keep putting the wrong button. There we go. All right, and then you got T-shirts.
Man, do we ever got T-shirts? Listen, there's a company called PopArtGear.com that makes the shirts. They're the first company to ever license Niobe. So they have a 3-year license to make Niobe clothing, and they're the only company that can do it. And the guy that runs it's really cool, but they're like the leader in independent comic book apparel. So they deal with people like Billy Tucci, Joseph Michael Linzer, Tom Hutchinson. You go to popartgear.com and you'll see a list of names that you recognize. And so glad to be with them. They make great quality shirts. In fact, I have one here I can show you later.
Okay. And then you got some metal prints too. Now I'll tell you something. And Rob, I think you should do metal print story. I'll start with here. I've got a crash course in metal prints thanks to Anthony Figueroa. Got him while in New Orleans last week. Got a crash course from hearing him and Dreaded Dinosaur Eric Hodson about quality metal prints. That looks pretty good. I don't actually have it here to take a look at it, but that
I got a metal print that I can show you on camera. That this picture does it no justice whatsoever.
I didn't know that there's like color saturation and all kind of issues that come up with metal prints, but yeah, this is that looks pretty good. Also, Rob, there was a guy who had he had metal prints, but they were embossed. Just thinking, Rob. Just thinking.
You've never seen my books, have you, recently?
No. Are they embossed?
No, we have a thicker cover, though, and the thickness of the cover itself has sold the books. Because the cover itself feels more like a graphic novel cover than a regular standard comic book cover. They're beautiful. They're shiny. They're extremely glossy. They're beautiful just looking at them, and they protect the book. So covers are definitely important. And the more you invest in the covers, the more people will take you seriously. I did hear with the metallic ones, they don't travel well. They wind up getting little dings and dents and things. They're not exactly great for Comic Cons, but they're good for Kickstarters and crowdfunding.
I'm not sure. I mean, Eric travels with his. I've done a lot of cons with Eric. He travels pretty well with his. I know
But
that.
it's in a book, right? His is just an art print.
Yeah, his is the print. Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
Some,
remember that changes when you have pages in between.
yeah, there are some people who they're doing metal comic books, and those are. Oh man, I don't have any of those. And real quick question for Rob and Larry from IndieVolt Radio. You guys both have comics with female leads.
Mhm.
Did you check with any females before writing these characters?
God, no. I don't need to do that. I can create whatever I want to create. I don't need to check with anybody. That's called the Charter of Rights here in Canada.
I think the Charter of Rights. I'm sorry, that's the first time I've heard that. Is that like our Declaration of Independence?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like your Constitution. I don't need to check with anyone. I made Niobe because I was a fan of '90s anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly, in 1990, didn't check with anyone if I can make or draw a female character. And I'll write about whatever I want to write about. And I don't need to check with anybody.
That's. And how about you, Rob? Did you have to check with anybody?
Larry's not around.
You said
Larry
what?
took an awkward stance, and this is going to sound really bad when I answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I referred to as many females as I could talk to, especially being a fetish book, because I wanted to make sure that it was genuine. I wanted to know how they felt about it, how they might speak versus me, and I wanted to get a feel for the character. The very first editor on the book was a female.
You say on the butt?
I had many different females actually show up and read it as deliberately to make sure I wasn't insulting with the female narrative. And it turned out I actually did pretty good on it. But I did want that feedback. I felt like without that feedback, maybe I wouldn't understand it. And it really did help me grow. And it was small changes that I had to make, but they were important. And to this date, I have more female fans than I have male fans who love the way I write. And aside from a funny story about New York Comic Con where, look, I'm going to say something, you're going to get hate mail about this, but it's the truth. If I were going to make a television show and I wanted to make a group of people that look like lesbians, I would maybe put them in plaid shirts and maybe have them in jeans and maybe have them have half their head shaved and the other half in a short hair. And at New York Comic Con, I kept running into people who had that exact outfit who would come up to my table. And I'm not saying they're lesbians because I didn't know, but I'm just saying they did.
That is the practice.
And they would be like, who wrote the book? And I would be like, I did. And to Larry's point, oh, you wrote it, and I got laughed at and walked away because they thought a male couldn't write a female narrative. And I think that is dangerous. But on the same foot, I do think there's nothing ever wrong with reaching out to other people to see their perspective on it and to hear what they have to say. You don't have to change anything, but feedback's important.
Randy, did you speak to any monkeys before writing Spank? Did you go to the zoo and do any research?
Oh, tons of them. Yeah. But then we had a lot of serious, deep philosophical discussions.
Yeah. Then
we exchanged bananas. It was great.
For me, if people, say a female wants to give me feedback on the book, they're more than welcome to after they read it. And for, everyone that's read the book has given me positive feedback. The only people that's ever given me negative feedback on the book are people that never read it. Right. Mm-hmm. I remember, I was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada for the Big Fan Expo. First time I ever had a table at a really big show. And this woman walks by and she's looking at the cosplayers and stuff. And some of them were pretty scantily clad. And she looks at me and she looks down at the table and she sees like the sexy covers of Niobe. And she looks at me and then she looks back down at the table and she goes, everything in here is a freaking porno. And, expecting me to respond. And I go, oh, okay. I said, well, have you ever read an issue of Niobe? And she looks at the book and looks at me again and looks at the book and goes, no, and I don't need to either. And walks away.
I don't have to understand shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, we have a sexy imagery on our covers, but if anyone have ever looked inside Niobe, Captain Frugal did a great video. He said, you know what? He said Niobe's sexy, but it has substance, and there's a lot of meat when you read a Niobe book. There's the first book we tackled teen suicide and depression, and the sexiest thing about it was the cover. I mean, other than that, it was pure story driven. So. That's what I have to say to that answer. Did I check with anyone? No. I mean, I feel like I don't have to. Just like George R.R. Martin probably doesn't need to check with anyone when he writes Games of Thrones or whatever. So
I happen to know that he actually checks with lizards when he writes that.
Okay, I see.
He's got 3 dragons at his house.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he does check with people, but I'm just saying,
No, I know he doesn't. I don't know if he does, but I don't. I know that we talked about on this show a while ago. What were the sensitivity advisors that people were hiring? And they were trying to make that a thing. Like, you have to hire someone who's going to be able to come in, look over your script, and tell you if you're being sensitive, if you're acknowledging the, your privilege or the, non-privilege of others in your books. And it's...
I don't subscribe to any of that stuff. Look, I'm not on the far left. I'm not on the alt-right. I'm a lone wolf who does things his way.
How dare you?
Talked to EBS.
I was just about to go there, buddy.
When I talked to EBS the other day, he asked me, "Yeah, how dare me?" When I talked to EBS the other day, he asked me, he goes, "Are you Comicsgate?" And I go, "No." And I said, "I don't believe in affiliations or labels to sell a comic book." I said, "I'm just a creator who does his own thing, and I believe firmly that there is room on the shelf for everything. If someone wants to do a book on lesbians, that's awesome. Just don't give me grief when I do my book about my Japanese pop star."
When I was younger, I had a shirt. My mother used to get mad at my shirts. She's since given them. She tried to get rid of a lot of them, and just so happens that my wife found them, and she has a couple of them now that she wears to bed. But I had a shirt from T-Shirt Hale, who actually sponsored one of my comics, and it says, I can't find that shirt, but it said, I support lesbian. I only support lesbians if both chicks are hot, which was, I used to think when I was younger, it was a cool shirt to wear. Yeah. And now I'm older. I'm like, ooh, that was kind of a dick for wearing that. But
that's what you call a trigger target.
Yeah. So you got some stretch goals here. $4,500 for an Ivy postcard. $5,000 for the button, $5,500 for the trading card, $6,000 for the cosplay photo. Using the same cosplay, or is it a different model?
No, I got a variety of cosplay photos that some people have seen and some people have never seen. But we'll pull one of those out of the vault and we'll put it up.
And $7,000 for a brand new print.
Yeah. So we make it to $7,000. I'll have Josh Spencer Tunes. I've already got him lined up to do a brand new image that would relate directly to the book. But hopefully we'll make it there. This is our biggest ambition, most ambitious Niobe to date. I mean, the best that we've ever done on a Niobe Kickstarter is $4,000, and I'm basically looking to get that bare minimum right now because of the amount of money that was thrown into making this book, with having like people like Paul Green and Steph Wilson and whatnot to do the covers, and then Dan Olvera. Like I said, it's the first time Niobe's been in full color, so we had to pay for someone to put it in color, right? And so Dan Olvera, his claim to fame is Action Lab Comics and Zenoscope. And so I was so happy to have Dan on board. He just did a dynamite job, on those pages. I mean, what you're seeing in the Kickstarter, is nothing compared to like looking at one, in front of your face, right? Yeah. So
it looks pretty good. Now, are you obviously you're excited to have it out, excited to get it started. You're looking for a May 2020 release. Are you gonna hit that target? Is the book done? Are you finished, or where you at?
See, here's the thing that I see with a lot of people that do crowdfunding that you just don't get. You really shouldn't, and my opinion, and keep in mind anything I say is just an opinion. But in my opinion, I don't think anyone should be crowdfunding until their book's at least 75% done, and that's to avoid being late or avoid not having the book done at all. Look, I backed 3 Indiegogo campaigns last year, and I still don't have one of them, right? So one of the things that I pride myself on is always being able to deliver on time. And if I ever was late, I'm very quick to update people on that and keep everyone in the loop. I don't believe in ghosting people for months on end, like I've seen some creators do, and not give people, a word up I don't want anyone to ever feel like, that we've taken the money and ran, because that's never happened. I take pride in being on time. I take pride on shipping my books properly as well. You're not going to get Stealing Solo in the mail wrapped up like a catalog, okay? These things come in Gemini mailers, and yeah, I mean, that's one thing I'm very passionate about is my track record. I've done 6 campaigns, all 6 successfully, all 6 on time. And so very proud of that.
Do you with the way books are shipped nowadays? I mean, Stealing Solo was a big. That was one of the ones that me and Randy had fun with. But
what? Which one?
Stealing Solo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Randy. Now, I know you're not. Randy's been working on stuff, but he can't talk about it yet.
I'm not talking about it. I fully follow Larry's philosophy.
Yeah. Get the book done.
Get the book done, close to done. I want to have the time to promote.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So with that being said, my book is done actually. Like it's done.
And Robbie do the same thing too, don't you? You never. Your books are all usually finished because you're asking for money for printing.
Yep, we never asked for anything. Even the Advocator, we were 90% done. I have a rule. I don't kickstart anything unless it's 90% done. And now, credit to some people, they are going to money for, Kickstarter for money for the art. So, of course, they want it to be communal art so everyone owns it. So I understand that. So we all have to wait for the artists to get our art ready for us.
Mm-hmm. And guys, real quick too, I see you sharing something. Larry, I'm gonna bring that on screen in a second. But if you're following, I did mention last week that we had the gentleman who wrote in and said, "Hey, I can't pay." I went to the concert and we talked about it off air, but I let everybody know that I did go look at his page. I've been following up on it. He has removed all art from his page. All art. Lots of stuff off the book is gone. Like he's removed as much as he possibly could. So those people who backed that book should probably be pretty concerned at this point. Let me share what you're sharing now, Larry. This is images from the book, right?
Well, this is one of the pages here.
Better not be porn. Let's see here.
No. Actually, that's the thing about Niobe. People assume that they're going to see her nude or something. Niobe has never been nude in the book. We never had her in any sort of sexual encounter at all. She hasn't even kissed anybody, So, again, the sexiest thing you'll see about Niobe is the cover. But this is just, one of the pages in the book. I just want to show people what the interior art and the color looks like. That was done by Dan O'Vera here. Mm-hmm. And Niobe's rocketing down the highway, and she's getting ready to leap into some action here. And Joe Rodriguez, I want to give a shout out to Joe Rodriguez of Metal Ninja Studios. He's the guy that did the lettering for this book, and he's doing all the pre-press work. And he also included some of these really cool sound effects that we see here when she opens her portal. Mm-hmm. So Joel did a phenomenal job, and I even like the caption up here, where he's got like the caption coming out of the portal. That was like a really nice touch that Joel.
Yeah,
did.
that is cool.
Highly recommend Joel Rodriguez. And I know that Rob knows Joel. They've gone to shows together, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Is that right, Randy? Not Randy. Is that right, Rob?
I don't really like Joe. We hang out sometimes. He's such a bother. You think he's at all. No, Joe's a good guy. He does the Dust County Chronicles. He was actually the production... I forgot what we called it, the production guy for the Advocator Summer Edition. Because with the Advocator, we tried to get a lot of creators involved, even in ancillary positions, including Christy Rodriguez, who's Joel's wife, who got her first credit in our Advocator book for the fall edition. So,
there you go.
Very talented couple. She makes great videos, as a matter of fact. If you guys need a video, reach out to Joel and Christy, and they'll be able to help you out. Of course, quality costs money, so be prepared to pay.
Prepared to pay and pay often. Randy?
Yes, sir.
Now, with everything that's been happening, we talked about what makes indie. We have to identify that one of the questions that I was asked earlier, and it was actually on IndieVolt Radio a second ago, was that one of our, who is the biggest enemy right now to indie comics? Randy, I'm going to let you go first. Who's the biggest enemy right now to indie comics?
The biggest enemy?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if there is a biggest enemy. Just the people who don't want to educate themselves to the market.
Mm.
You know, I don't know if there's anyone that stands out over top of the other. You know, it's kind of tied down to the same 12 to 20 weirdos that don't want to, don't want to follow the markets. That's all.
And you think that, well, so you don't think there's like one, like we can identify, okay, here's,
You can't point the finger and go, if that person leaves, the indie market's going to be great.
okay.
No,
I think there's a
I don't
couple.
think it is.
I think there's a couple. I think there's like 4 or 5. And I'm going to say something very controversial here. Yeah, you could say it's the mainstream. I think Ralph said they buy up shelf space and they take up shelf space, and you can't get new ideas out because everyone wants to be in Marvel. But I also believe um, everyone wants to have Marvel and DC books on their shelf. But I also think one of the biggest personally, one of the biggest enemies of indie comics are indie creators.
Yeah. I was gonna give you that answer.
We can be the biggest problem. There are times where I have a hard time trying to get indie creators to even come out of their shells, come on the show. Which, I mean, that's okay. Some of them are introverts, and that's fine. But promoting yourself, promoting your book, some of them just don't know how to do that. They've built it. You're supposed to come, but they don't want to go out there and say, "Hey, here's my book." They don't know how to pitch it. They don't know how to sell it.
Right.
And they don't have the education, and they refuse to get educated in the industry. And so I think that's one. I think one of the larger enemies is ourselves.
Yeah, I think way too many creators are also attacking each other based on their personal politics.
Mhm.
And I like to separate business from politics, and I don't. And I know a lot of people can't do that, but I try to do that as much as I can. Whatever my politics are, they're mine. I don't care what Rob's are. I don't care what Randy's are. Right. What I care about is having good books out there. But what happens is now is that people are mixing business and politics into one thing. And I think that is causing a lot of divide, a lot of polarization, a lot of tribalism that say, hey, X voted for Republican, Y voted for Democrat. So Y is never going to buy X's book, no matter how good it is, just simply because of who he voted for. It's ridiculous.
Rob, your take on that? Is there a biggest enemy? Is there
There
a
is
large
no
enemy?
enemy to indie comics. Indie comics is older than anyone who's alive today.
Mhm.
It's been around forever. It's the people who can be toxic at times. It can be groups that are toxic at times. Creativity started on cave walls. It's not going away. There are no enemies. The enemies are in the comic books. It's just people wanting to seem important, making videos about it to make themselves feel self-important, because you got to put a spin on it now. You can't create anything original. You just got to talk about how everyone else is doing it wrong. And that's all that is a big hot air. I do agree with you about creators getting in their own way. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely agree with you about creators stepping in it. And Larry's got a point about the political stuff. That's not indie comics. That's the people in indie comics that are toxic. Indie comics themselves are just fine. And they'll continue to be fine once we're all long and gone.
I think you can put religion right in there with politics anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people's religions are getting in the way.
And also discussions about Star Wars.
Yeah. Or they're hypocritical discussion of religion, but that's a whole other story.
It's just listen. We have the Mandalorian. This is the way. So
Yeah, I love
the
Baby
way.
Yoda, by the way. Baby Yoda's been very good to my YouTube channel. Thank you, Baby Yoda.
Yes. We all worship the Baby Yoda.
Yeah. I guarantee you next Christmas. I'm surprised it didn't happen this Christmas. There will be a nativity scene with Baby Yoda.
Oh no, I'm sure it's coming. Yeah. I'm sure.
You know how they have like those Yule fires, you know what I mean? Like, and you open your gifts and you have like it on the TV or whatever. Well, I found one with Baby Yoda, and I'm going to use that next year. I already saved it. So it's like 40 minutes of like Baby Yoda floating in front of a fire. There we go. Like, I got her.
Well, way back when the market was healthy, there was one political agenda. There was one religious agenda, and that was just solid entertainment. And everybody kept a lot of those opinions to themselves, and that's what helped sell a lot of comics for everybody, not just for Joe over here or Mary over there or whatever. People read the same books. They went through and they desperately looked through the spiral racks in order to get entertainment, and it's a shame we can't get back to that point, where we're doing comics literally for everybody with as many different cultures and opinions in the product with product that has quality that'll entertain the masses.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, since you guys said that, um, with the way comics are, indie comics are being sold, and with us all now going to crowdfunding to find customers to move these books. Do you think? Can you see yourself going back to stores?
Oh yeah.
Well, I still shop at a comic book store, so yeah.
Uh, Rob,
I don't have anything against comic book stores. Like, again, there are some comic book stores out there supporting indie creators on every day. I have a place out here. I have to drive all the way to Tampa. It's 90 minutes to 2 hours from here. But there is one that always invites us back, was always happy to host us, and loves what we do. So it's not comic book shops, it's comic book owners. Same thing with indie comics. It's not the shops, it's the people who are running it.
Mm. So do you think that has anybody damaged indie comics in your guys' opinions?
Just
Anybody
the people who put out
damaged?
our books.
Yeah.
The people who don't follow through with their promises hurts indie comic books. When, let's say this as an example, let's say I'm watching YouTube and a creator's got me really excited to go back their book, and I've never backed a book before in my life, right? And I go to Indiegogo or Kickstarter and I throw down my $50 to back this guy's book, and it's a year and a half later and I got no book.
Yep.
Do you really think that guy is going to come back and back more books after that bad experience, right?
First time, like I mean, when you say it's his first time, you meant hypothetically that being because you've backed books before.
Yeah. Hypothetically, the same person why goes backs a book that they got excited about, doesn't get it for a year and a half or if ever, because a lot of that happens in crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a risk. Remember that Captain Cummings video where he's like chasing down Claymore, like, where's my $40?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want that situation. That makes everyone look bad, because if that happens, like say for me, I backed 3 Indiegogos. I haven't received one of them yet, right?
Yeah.
It makes me very hesitant to go and back any more Indiegogos at this point,
Yeah.
And so in that way, yes, it can hurt because, we want people to back as many books as possible. But in order to do that, the creators have to be responsible with getting their stuff out there.
Yeah, but Larry, doesn't that hurt crowdfunding and not indie? That's an individual thing. Like Indiegogo, we've heard that a lot. Kickstarter's doing fine. Except,
Yeah, but it can easily just as happen on Kickstarter. Someone doesn't follow.
Well, yeah, Marcel Dupree is. You guys know the name. He's famous for it. He's so bad, Kickstarter kicked him off.
I think it hurts the market. It hurts the market in general. Hurts the art form.
Yeah,
when somebody doesn't perform.
You got to put Marcel's picture on a milk crate now because he's missing.
Yeah, well, someone might just say, screw comics altogether, right? And so that's how it hurts us,
That's what I mean.
Yeah. A real quick question for Lola from IndieVolt Radio. Is that a dress? It is. It's okay. Okay. Someone asked, is that a dress? Yes, it's a dress she's wearing. I call it the Mormon dress because it's got the holes cut out of very select places. Yeah. She puts the shirt. Thank God, because we're gonna be on YouTube. There was a shirt underneath it. So that is a dress. I do agree with you guys. I do believe that people not fulfilling their promises on crowdfunding, but then Rob put a good point up that does hurt crowdfunding. But I can see someone saying, well, I'm not going to crowdfund any more comics because these guys don't deliver.
And that soon leads to just not reading any comics at all.
Yeah.
It's just going to hurt the whole art form if somebody can't fulfill their promises, or at least stay transparent as to what's happening. Because there are folks out there with first crowdfunding campaigns that don't realize exactly what they're getting.
Yeah. People are going to be late as long as
never
they're
bothered to produce a comic before, or never taken the time to research the market properly. And
people are going to be late. I mean, like I heard someone say, if you're crowdfunding a comic and you're a month or two late, you're pretty much on time. You know what I mean? Like,
that's not the way it should be, though.
No, but it's there, right? And I think a lot of people understand that some people are going to be late, but I think exactly like you said, Randy, you just got to be transparent about it.
Yep.
And I'll say this too: there are people who you got to remember, DC and Marvel, they've been late. From Josh Lyman, Josh writes, "I'll argue that clicks." Josh says, "I'll argue that clicks are also being a big issue of indie books, pun intended. Often group thinking and scarlet lettering leads to a lack of diverse thinking and can cause oversaturation with some art." I mean, there are. I've gone to some conventions and I've run to some clicks.
Isn't that more a mainstream problem, though?
but you find it even on the indie level. I found it in the indie level.
Yeah.
I found
Well,
some.
look,
I'm sure
Comicsgate
there are
is a
definitely
clique.
cliques out there. Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Right.
So they're definitely out there. There are definitely different groups and factions within groups and factions, mind you.
But
At that,
would that clique have existed if the other clique didn't throw them out?
I don't know. You know,
There's an
Like a-
interesting chain there.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I've been told like I can go to a Comic Con, I can go to Rob's table, talk to Rob. I can walk over to Larry's table, talk to Larry. At your table, Randy, go talk to Anthony, and
Go
I
talk to
talked
Jim
to
Shooter.
yeah, and then go
I
talk to Jim.
talked to Jim Shooter. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome.
I've walked over. I had a Steranko experience.
Yeah.
In
You don't
war.
have a talk with Steranko.
Yeah,
You
look,
have
I
an
never go to a
experience.
convention and
Yeah,
go,
experience.
show me your ID card and which clique are you a part of?
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I go and I see something I like, I shake hands. Like, I wasn't, someone put on my Twitter there, they're debating about Gail Simone, and I said, hey, look, I met Gail Simone in 2011 and she was sweet as pie. I mean, she was nice to me. I'm not asking Gail about her politics. I'm asking about, what she did in Red Sonja. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just met her a couple months ago, and she was kind of reserved, but
Yeah,
still
I-
okay. I got her autograph.
the only thing that ever happened to me was I was escorted out of Florida for knowing Rob.
whoa.
Were you really? You were escorted out of Florida?
But what he
Knowing
forgets
Rob.
to tell you is that he borrowed my trench coat, and I kept telling him he has to wear clothing under it. But he didn't listen. It's
Get
really
you every
hot now.
time.
Really
Get you
hot
every
here
time.
in Florida. My balls they're sweaty and itchy.
We got a comment.
You've named your balls? What?
Rizzy, is that Rizzy or Risey?
No, this is Risey Lee. He's a friend of mine. And by the way, Risey Lee, no relation to Niobe Lee, Stan Lee, Jet Lee, or Bruce Lee, but we do think he's second or third cousins with Motley Crue's Tommy Lee.
Or Jim? Did you say Jim? Yeah.
Yeah, he's not related to Jim Lee either. And Risey says, I don't mind if a book is late as long as the creator lets us know what is going on with the book.
Transparency. Yeah, it helps. And here's the thing.
The key point there is not just being transparent, but learning.
And I want to piggyback that because there is something there. Make sure that when you're late, you let people know on your crowdfunding page and updates. Let them know there. Don't tell them on YouTube.
Yep.
Because not everybody wants to go on YouTube and sit through a 2-hour, 3-hour live stream of you talking unless you're going to be working on the book at that moment. That might help, but
you should be fighting to get the word out any way you possibly can. That's all a matter of being transparent.
Yeah. It's being transparent, letting people know, hey, I didn't. The book is late. The book is late because I've been reading Barbara Unleashed. Chapter 4. I got it from Wish, from JT, who put out his own Barbara Unleashed book.
I got that copy too.
Yeah. It's hot. And the cover's embossed. See, so since you wouldn't do the embossed cover, Rob, now we got the embossed cover. Spank makes an appearance in there too. It's awesome. That would be great. Someone just parodies all our books and just
crazy monkey.
Yeah, just parodies.
Hey, if someone's parodying our books, and we know we've made it, right?
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
Sincerest form of flattery.
So with everything, because and again, the title of today's show is keeping your independence and how they fight for independence, how us as publishers fight and creators fight for independence. There was something that I seen, and I'll bring up two things, and then we'll end the show. One, guys, how excited are you guys that now YouTube, and we talked about this, Randy, YouTube has announced that they are actually offering exclusive. They're signing people. They're signing people to exclusive streaming deals. Like you can't stream anywhere else. You can't stream on Facebook. You can't stream on Twitch. You're gonna be YouTube.
Is there money involved?
Oh, there's money involved.
Well, then there you go.
What kind of streams are we talking about though? Here, like gaming streams or any kind of stream?
Right now, they just signed 3 gamers, but
Mhm.
that's going to branch out to other people and other forms of
It
entertainment.
sounds cool in theory, but YouTube has been cracking down a lot on the content that they provide, and especially with the whole COPA thing, it's got a lot of creators scared.
Mhm.
I mean, I broadcast on YouTube almost every day, but I'm a very small channel. It's not like YouTube is ever going to come and sign me. But let's say that they did. I'm sure that's going to come with its own long list of rules and regulations and guidelines that you're going to have to abide by to play by YouTube's rules to get that sweet YouTube money. You know?
So I was telling Varian he doesn't have anything to worry about that.
Oh, no,
we have to
I
get
don't have anything-
monetized first and be big enough to get their
Yeah.
notice.
But it is exciting because it's like, well, okay, now you're going to see somebody. Like, the other thing is this, though, and the reason why I brought it up is this. Okay, let's say tomorrow IndieVolt is monetized to the point where we get signed. If we're signed to an exclusive deal and we cover indie comics, are they going to make sure nobody else does a show like ours? They come and cut us off at the knees, or will they help foster that competition? Because competition is good, but they may decide, well, okay, we already got a show that covers indie comics and has a girl with big boobs on it, so we're not going to do that again.
Well, unless if the show is a big, huge hit and there's a huge demand for more of it, chances are they'll only ever need one. You know what I mean? It's comic books, so comics are a very small niche to begin with. So I mean, to have one show on YouTube that specializes in indie comics to actually be signed would be quite the feat. And I would love to see it, and I hope it is you guys. But I don't think they'll do 2 or 3 because I just don't think there'd be enough viewership for that.
Mm-hmm. And
knowing our luck, we would lose out to Comic Tom.
Comic Tom. There you go.
And now, and the other thing I want to get into is Rob's Indie Awards, the gift that keeps on giving. Rob,
I think Rob's finding that out.
Yeah,
Aren't you, Rob. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it's definitely a given.
If you see Rob,
given.
If you see Rob almost in tears, he's had to make the screen very white on his face now to cover up the fact that he's turning red, because he's actually working on the awards as we speak, and he is finding it hard. I've watched the comment section of these awards. I've watched.
Has the term narcissistic prick ever popped into your head while you're looking at these responses? You don't have to answer that now. You just did. Thank you.
Rob,
that's because he keeps answering my responses. Goddamn narcissistic prick.
Rob, if you knew then what you know now, would you do the awards?
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who are excited about getting noticed. There's a lot of people having conversations about indie comics. We got shared with on previews.
Mm-hmm.
Previews' own Facebook group shared it, and we had a huge uptick on the site. We had a huge uptick for other creators, and it's about celebrating indie comics, and that means dealing with some of the bad. It's just going to be people who have ego issues. What we'll do in 2020 is we'll cut the legs out of the popularity vote by, and I just introduced this, from now on, the popularity vote will only earn 2 spots, and then judges will be able to come in and pick the other 2 spots, and judges will pick all of the final winners in 2020. We're taking away popularity vote next year. You'll be able to try to get your stuff noticed and in the finals, but it doesn't guarantee you a win.
I want popular vote.
And personally, I think, and only on the Hall of Fame awards, that you should probably enact that this year.
Oh, the Hall of Fame's only Randy.
The judges take a look at the popular vote and decide.
Yeah. Randy, there's no popular vote for the Hall of Fame. You're one of the people I've been talking to, and you know who we're aiming for. We're aiming for people like Eisner. I just finished reading his biography. Oh my God, does he deserve it? It should be named after him, but someone already named the awards after him.
And look at where those awards are.
Yeah, I mean, right? It's most awards become about giving people ego baths. Yep. And me and Randy have talked about it. When I brought up Stan Lee, I expected it to be a dumpster fire, but I wanted to prove it to myself because I'm such a huge fan of Stan Lee. I kind of could see myself convincing it. So I had to say it out loud so I could be slapped around. And I needed to be slapped around to be made to okay, no, the side of me that was saying this is a really bad idea was right. So because at a con recently, I won't say who, someone said, "Oh no, I could really make an argument for it," and I'm like, I don't know if you can. So that's why I never brought it up to Randy, because I thought Randy'd strangle me in a private message, like it would just come out and get me. So I went to the public and I'm like, could this ever work? And everyone was like, the first thing I thought was funny is everyone starts naming names that me and Randy had talked about. Like, we don't know who Will Eisner is. Come on.
Yeah.
And then you got a few people who got upset right away because we were talking about, like, the first time we mentioned it, I had someone who got really mad at me. I mean, super pissed, cursed me out in my messenger because when I said that we were hand picking it, and he's like, "Oh, why isn't it a vote? I should be a popularity vote." And I was like, because in the end of the day, people choose poorly. People offer free books to get voted for. This is about appreciating the people who paved the way for the future of indie comics. And if you don't know Will Eisner's story, you really need to know it to understand why he's one of the people that we're trying to get permission from Will Eisner's foundation or whatever it's left over that's in charge of him. But we're going to induct him no matter what. Me and Randy already said that. If I get in trouble, then, oh, well, because I know he'd want it. And I'm willing to take the beating on that because I know he'd appreciate what we're doing right now.
And it's really an opportunity to sit down and go, this is a person that's in the Hall of Fame, and this is why.
Yep.
You know, and give a full explanation as to why this person isn't just part of independent comics, but they need to be recognized and pointed at as, you know, doing something specifically for the art form.
I will say this, and it might get me in trouble, but Rob is going to be disinvited from a few parties for the for the foreseeable future, because there is a group of people who are upset because I don't think they got enough time. Because I think some people, the awards kind of flew under the radar for a while, and then in that last week and a half or so, boom, just big explosion of awareness, and people didn't get a chance to swing their, you know, to nominate themselves and then have their, you know, click go over there and, you know, boost them up. However, speaking of people being boosted up, I do feel that we were cheated out of our award. I do feel we were cheated. That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. We're doing real work over here on iNDIEVOLT. We're doing real work. Real work. This is the important stuff. We're breaking news on books like Niobe and Barbara Unleashed. Barbara Unfettered coming pretty soon from Wish Comics. You guys can check that out. I do want to thank you guys for coming on. Was that the print, Larry?
Yeah, this is the metal print.
That looks nice.
Hang on, keep that up there just for a second. Let's blow that up so that we can look at it closer. That's pretty
nice
awesome.
Shine on it.
Yep.
Beautiful colors.
Yeah.
Now is that? And I'm worried about that shipping.
Oh no, don't worry about this. I've shipped these before.
Okay.
Everything I ship is, like I said, it's in a Gemini mailer. Everything is wrapped tight in bubble wrap. It's all taped in the center so it doesn't move around. Yeah. This thing will be in between some books. You know what I mean? Like, it'll have lots of cushion, man. There'll be a bag and a board with it too, on both sides. Nothing will happen to this thing.
We ship all our iNDIEVOLT things. We call it a Lola cushion. It's a cushioned, like
not what you're thinking.
Yeah, right, by two big like air pockets of just. Yeah. So, guys, I want to thank you for coming on. I do want to mention to everybody that we are, well, there's an Niobe pop. So, yeah, that, they can't get that. That's only one of those, right?
Yeah, this is one of a kind. It's cool, though.
Yeah, that's a Niobe pop.
It's a Niobe pop.
She's staring at the crowd.
That's pretty cool. We have... we do want to let everybody know, if you want to get your question on iNDIEVOLT Live, you can do so by mailing us at indievoltlive@indievolt.com. Include iNDIEVOLT Live in the subject, and please keep those emails to 90 words or less so that we can put them into the little graphic and read them. And Randy will read them and put his voice acting
as best as I can. Yes.
Yeah.
And we want your questions. So please send them in.
We won't make fun of all of them, we promise.
Especially advice to the Lovelorn.
Yeah. And for the 900.
I'm a certified reverend, so it'll work. We can do that.
924 full 23 people listening on IndieVolt Radio. We appreciate you. If you want to be one of the masses, it's really easy to do that. All you got to do is go on to your phone or your tablet and download IndieVolt Radio. You can take us with you wherever you go. IndieVolt Radio is the perfect companion to our official website, IndieVolt.com. IndieVolt Radio plays the best in indie music, entertainment, news, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got music from talent like Chemical, Park Squares and Alleys, and Dims One. Download the IndieVolt Radio app on Android's Google Play Store or listen in with the streaming app on iOS. You can also check out IndieVolt Radio by visiting our official site, IndieVolt.com, and utilizing the built-in player right there on the front page. And while we're at it, you guys need to check out IndieVolt TV. Anybody here have Roku's? Anybody in the? None of you guys.
I don't have a Roku,
No, but I'm gonna have
but
to check it out.
I've got a Fire Stick.
Yeah, well, it's coming to Fire Stick very soon because IndieVolt TV is the over-the-top streaming service available on Roku. And like I said, it'll be on Fire Stick very soon. It'll be on Fire Stick by the end of the month, I promise. You can stream independent movies, music videos, wrestling, original documentaries, and more on IndieVolt TV. And I should mention that it is free. You can find IndieVolt TV by searching the channel store on your Roku device or Roku-enabled television. I should announce that we got some new content coming to IndieVolt TV very soon. I will announce it tomorrow morning. Check IndieVolt. Check the Facebook.
Doing it tomorrow morning or Thursday morning?
Tomorrow morning. So Wednesday morning.
Tomorrow morning. You're announcing it on IndieVolt.
Well, it's going to be on Facebook, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's some new content that's going to be up there. Definitely need to check that out.
Cool.
If you're into it's a comic book.
You finally got that rights to that Barry Manilow concert, didn't you?
No, I didn't get the rights to that, but you guys are going to love it, and we're going to have the creator of that content on the show very soon here. That's it for us. Me and Randy, and we'll join you back here Thursday at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
We are working on Geekgasm, which is Lola's show. It's being worked on as we speak. Actually, there's some graphics up for it. Not here, but she's got her own little graphic setup. So that's going to be her show where she's going to bring on some guys, and she has a female panel. She has a female Randy. She has a female variant. That sounds really weird, but yeah,
That's very weird. That's very weird.
Yeah, and don't
do that again.
They'll be bringing on guests. So they'll bring on Larry, and they'll ask Larry about his comic, and they'll run through the female ringer.
I'm ready to jump into the pool.
Yeah. They'll bring on the Indie Devil and ask him about his fetish agenda, and they're really taking the task, and he'll like, man, those girls. No, they're all very intelligent and very excited about what we're doing here in Indie Comics. So
need to get a graphic with that red circle with the slash through it with a milkshake on the other side.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we should do that. I think Lola,
milkshakes here.
I think Lola will like that. Until then, everyone, let me ask you guys before we go off though real quick. Where can they find you, Mr. Anderson?
You can find me at the IndieDevil.com or MrAnderson.com for things about me. But for things about indie comics, go to IndieAdvocates.com. The global digital Comic Con, which supports indie creators daily, gives you a show about the forecast for Comic Cons, or now we call them conventions or comic-ventions. We're still trademark pending. We want to see what San Diego says we can use. And finally, we do the crowdfunding report every week on the ICR. So we'll see you on Facebook and at IndieAdvocates.com.
Should check my book to see what San Diego says we can use.
What book is that, Randy? Oh, yes, it's book of fucks.
My book of fucks. I don't think I give one.
And Mr. Rebel Comics, where can we find you, sir?
Well, Rebel Comics and Gaming on YouTube is pretty much my home away from home. But there's Twitter, so if you want to tweet at me, that's at Niobe Comic. Facebook is at Niobe Comic. Instagram is at Niobe Comic. But more or less, if you want to keep up to date, it's Facebook and YouTube is where I'm usually at. But I live stream on Twitter. Sorry, not Twitter, but Twitch at Rebel Gaming XXX and on DLive at Rebel Gaming as well. So I do gaming and comics. You know, I always say that YouTube is kind of my hobby and comics is my passion. And find me there.
Cool. And please, if you're watching on Facebook, like and share this video. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps us until then, until Thursday,
Hit that thumbs up button.
9 a.m. Me and
Thursday,
Randy,
9 a.m. at the Breakfast Buzz. That's the next time we'll be talking.
Eastern Standard Time, of course. So we'll see you guys very soon. Everyone stay safe this week. We got a new outro. You guys, if you haven't seen our outro, it's new. It's fancy. I licked it, so it's mine.
That's it. That's the outro.
No, that's not the outro.
I was gonna say that was epic, man.
We didn't even ask everybody who their favorite Marvel character was.
We didn't. But,
Magic from the X-Men. Boom.
Who's your favorite Marvel?
And who's your favorite Marvel Comics hero? Mine is Superman. Remember the motto? With great power comes great responsibility.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching IndieVolt. We will see you back here Thursday morning, and of course every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, take care. Keep reading indie books.
Thanks for being here.